Back when we had lead-acid batteries, refilling the water in them was a miserable task. Then we discovered an easy way to do it. Hi, I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, I'll share how our battery watering system kept us from having to disconnect our batteries every month to do this important maintenance task. It can save you a lot of grief if you have batteries that require water. Now first though, today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Aquamap, the most advanced navigation app for your tablet or phone. Aquamap allows for easy route planning with overlays from Active Captain and the Waterway Guide, tides, currents, waypoints, and anchor alarm. It's all in Aquamap. Upgrading to Aquamap Master brings in all of the Army Corps of Engineers survey overlays, as well as U.S. notices to mariners and more, invaluable for cruising the ICW in the Bahamas. Find Aquamap. Now be careful, there's no S on the end of it. It's Aquamap. Get it wherever you find your apps. Okay, so let's talk about easy battery watering. If you have wet cell batteries, you know what fun it can be to check and water the batteries. You're supposed to do it every month. But when you have to remove part of the batteries from the compartment, disconnecting the wires, lifting them at arm's length straight in front of you, do you really do it that often? Well, I'm certain that the previous owners of Barefoot Gal didn't. I've got evidence. The two very hard-to-get batteries, way stuck back in a corner, each lasted about 15 months. They didn't have any water in them when we got them out finally. Even if you don't have to move and disconnect the batteries, they're usually still hard to get to. Now, I want to be clear. We're not watering our current lithium batteries. This is what we did with our old lead-acid batteries that we had several years ago. But it's still really good information if you have flooded cell lead-acid batteries and you have to water them. So that's why I'm putting this podcast out there and telling you about this. This is probably one of the best pieces of gear that we put on the boat back then. In the process of doing a bunch of other battery work that we were doing, we put a battery watering system in. Now, what this is, there's a couple of brands available, but they all work pretty much the same way, at least as far as the ones that you'd use on a boat. Basically, you replace the vent caps with special watering vent caps, and they make them that'll fit virtually any brand of battery. Then you connect tubing from one set of vent caps to another. Generally, 2 or 3 batteries can be connected together. Now, at one end of the chain, you connect the fill tube, which has a quick connect on the other end. And at the other end of the chain, you put on what's called an end cap. When it's not in use, the fill tube is just coiled up and left in place. But then to fill the batteries, you use a squeeze pump that's similar to an outboard motor fuel line. That little ball thing in the middle of it. You connect one end of it to the quick connect, put the other into the jug of distilled water, squeeze a few times, and you're done. Now, the vent caps have a float valve in them that stops water flowing when the cell is full. So each cell gets just exactly the right amount of distilled water. When the squeeze bulb gets hard, all the cells are full. Disconnect the pump tube. There are fill systems made for most Group 24, 27, 29, and 31 batteries, and also for 6-volt golf cart batteries. Typically, you buy battery systems, that is, the vent caps and the tubings, for 1 or 2 batteries in a group. You buy as many sets as you need. This is the part that always stays permanently attached. Then you just need one pump unit for the whole system, and you simply connect the pump to each fill line. The water does not stay permanently attached. It's not a totally automatic battery watering system, simply one that makes it so that you don't have to reach each battery. For us, it now takes about 2 minutes to fill our batteries, including the time to get the distilled water out, get the tube pump out, and get everything connected, and finally put everything away at the end of it. But we still have to do it every month. However, since the batteries are horribly inaccessible, it means that we can do it very, very simply. Now, if you read the company literature and read some reviews, some people will talk about installing the system in just a few minutes. Remember, this is a boat project, and nothing is ever easy. Yeah, it's easy to make the actual connections. Just do be careful as you're working around battery acid. But if you're on a boat where the batteries are hard to get to, it's going to take longer as you have to get to all the batteries and wind the connector tubing around the battery wires. It took us about 3 hours before we were totally happy with the installation. It didn't have any places where tubing was pinched. The two big companies offering battery watering systems are Flow-Rite and Trojan, and both offer systems for 12-volt batteries, as far as I know up to Group 31 size, and 6 and 12-volt golf cart batteries. Now, we went with the Flow-Rite because it was easy to order them online from Amazon, and I had had problems making connections with a local Trojan dealer to get them through him. Talking to people who do have a Trojan system, it seems that Flow-Rite is also somewhat less expensive. One reader, Bill and Donna from Denali Rose, they used the Trojan system. They wrote up their experience. There's a link to that in the show notes. Now, both companies also make systems for golf course operations and other commercial applications that will fill tens or hundreds of batteries with varying degrees of automatic operation. These are absolutely not suitable for a boat. You want the ones that are marketed as being designed for boats or RVs. Here are the links for the Flow-Rite systems on Amazon. They're in the show notes. You'll need as many kits as you have batteries. That is, if you have 3 batteries, you'll need one 2-battery kit and one 1-battery kit. If you have 4 batteries, you'll need 2 2-battery kits, and so on. In addition, you need one of the pump assemblies, no matter how many batteries you have. Our total cost for the project, and this was several years ago, was about $120 for the whole thing. It's pretty similar to that now. This is one of those improvements that nobody ever sees, and yet it makes life on board so much easier. Doing the battery water was such an easy task after we did this. I would do it, say, on a Sunday morning as I was waiting for our coffee water to boil. That's how fast it took. We didn't even have to open the battery compartment, let alone move any batteries or disconnect the wiring. It was a total win. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast. Thanks for listening in. Help other cruisers and wannabe cruisers find us. Leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app and tell your friends.
Slow